Functions and graphs. Checking graph values. Here we check whether a point is on a particular graph. So the question is, check whether or not the point xy equals 0, 3 satisfies the function fx is x squared minus 2x minus 8. So is the point 0, 3 on this function? If we were to draw it, we would see that fx is x squared minus 2x minus 8, or y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. And all the functions here have a y on the left hand side and x on the right hand side. So for a given value of x, we'll only get a given value of y. So if x is 1, we get a value for y. When x is 2, we get a value of y. And typically we get a graph for a quadratic, something like this. So let's see now if the point 0, 3 satisfies our graph. Well, 0, 3 is xy, so x is 0, y is 3. So let's substitute the values now in here. F of x is x squared minus 2x minus 8. So we're going to substitute x for 0. So f of 0 is 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8, or f of 0 is 0 minus 0 minus 8, or minus 8. So taking the x and the y together, this being the x, we find that the point 0 minus 8 satisfies the function. Now, with the function that's like this quadratic, if the point 0 minus 8 satisfies it, well, that's the only y value for the given value of x of 0. So if 0 minus 8 is on it, 0, 3 does not satisfy the function. So if we look at the graph here, we can see that what we found was that when x was 0, the graph had a value of minus 8. So the graph was coming through and cutting at that point there 0 minus 8. And if the graph was cutting at 0 minus 8, it can't at the same time have a value of 0, 3. So the point 0, 3 is not on the graph. Example 2. You're asked, when is f of x greater than 0? So let's look at the function f of x is x squared minus 2x minus 8. And we're asked to identify the values of x when f of x is greater than 0. Remember that f of x is really y, the other variable. When is the vertical greater than 0? When are we above the x-axis? So if we look at the graph here, there's our graph of fx is x squared minus 2x minus 8. And we can see that at this stage the graph is above the x-axis. Here at minus 2, it goes below and stays below, though it's increasing to about 4. And after 4, the value of the function is greater than 0. So we can draw that by the shaded areas here. We can see that, for example, in the shaded area, well, in the white area, or the clear area between minus 2 and 4, f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8 is less than 0, because the y value is negative. The f of x turns out to be negative, just as we find that the point 0 minus 8 is on the graph. The fx, or the y value, is minus 8. To the left of that, and to the right of 4, we can see that the fx in this case, the same function, is greater than 0, and similarly here. So at this point, and from that point on, going to the right, and from this point on, going to the left, the f of x is greater than 0. So how might we write that? Well, we found that f of x is greater than 0 when x was greater than 4 and when x was less than minus 2. So we can write that as two equations, when x is less than minus 2 being the first one, and x greater than 4 being the second one. So we might want to write that as a single equation. So the way we do that is that we start with the smaller number and we put the minus 2 down, the larger number 4, and we separate them by some space. And in the middle we write the variable x. But we've got to figure out the signs now. Is it x greater than 4 or x less than 4? Well, we look to the original two equations. we can see that it was x greater than 4. So we return our x greater than 4 here. When we looked at the x and the minus 2, they were in a different order. The x was on the left and the minus 2 on the right, and this has changed. But the way we remember it is, when moving from x to minus 2, we saw the point of the accent first. So we saw the narrow part of that before it widened. So as we move from x to minus 2, we see the point and then it widens. So x is still less than minus 2, or minus 2 is greater than x. So that's writing it as a single line, or more succinctly as minus 2 greater than x greater than 4. And that determines those two spaces where the graph f of x was greater than 0.